Alright, so I decided to take a little video of my current gaming project, which is the 7 days battle running from, historically running from the Battle of, I think the North calls it Mechanicsville, but it's been more accepted as Gaines Mill because that's the majority of the battle, through Savage Station, and then down to Malvern Hill. This is a humongous map. This is the largest, I think, straight board game that I've ever played. Minis games, I've certainly played something maybe twice this size, perhaps even larger. It's kind of hard to reach the middle of the table on this. With the minis games, you'd have to have two sets of tables and a walkway in between, and that kind of disturbed things. Anyway, getting back to this one. The initial situation, and we're a little further than that, starts out with the Union lines centered here, near where the Battle of Seven Pines, which I just played, had been fought out, all entrenched. And this is the main force of the Army of the Potomac, has moved down here to directly face Richmond, which is down there. Somewhere in between, if I can find them, we have the Confederate lines, which are poised against them, also all entrenched, just to the west of Richmond. The Union has landed on the peninsula and moved westward towards Richmond. This was McClellan's probably most brilliant little end-run move, and unfortunately, if he hadn't been so slow, and if a guy named General Magruder hadn't pretty much fooled him completely with about 1/10 of his force, Richmond would have fallen already. So the Confederate troops, a large part of their army was stationed right here north of Richmond, and they just marched up into a position over here, facing the Union lines directly across something called Beaver Dam Creek. And right now what we've got going on is a little artillery duel. Each side keeps throwing more and more guns into play. Up to the north of that, now if you see the Union lines, there's a little bit of defense here on the river, a couple of cav units. Up to the north of that you have Jackson's Army of the Valley, which is positioning itself near the crossroads there. I don't know what it's called, Huntley Corner or something like that. Anyway, General Lee, whom we can find right here, went up to go tell General Jackson, who's in charge, of course, of the Army of the Valley, over here, that he wanted him to attack and basically outflank and take Porter's 5th Corps, which is defending the line there, in the rear. Now, Jackson basically looked at him and said, "I'm sorry, sir. My men are tired. Come back and talk to me again in a few hours." And Lee's wandering back, wondering just what his forces that are poised along the river line are going to do during that time, because there's a preponderance of Union artillery making its way up into the lines. There's about 5 artillery batteries there. In addition, let me Let me see if we can find them. There's a long column of Union troops which is making its way up from the extreme north of the Union entrenched position to go and take the northern flank of the 5th Corps and secure that. So I think what we're going to see is what amounts to a real failed opportunity here because Jackson didn't want to fight. The Union's goal under McClellan is to try to hold that position along the river line, because if they can hold that, right now they're sitting on a majority of the victory points that you can get for terrain in the game. Basically, they control everything back here, which is worth a decent amount, and of course the stuff behind the lines and behind the river line here. This is the White Oak Swamp River, and this, between that and the Chickahominy. They controlled most of the territory there and everything north of the Chickahominy. There's an interesting large amount of points to be gotten in the very southern areas of the map. And basically nobody occupies this at all. The Union's considering sending the 4th Corps around to position itself to outflank the Union or the Confederate entrenched positions. Union attacks are very difficult in this game. McClellan really doesn't want to fight an offensive battle for whatever reason. He's afraid that he's outnumbered about 2-to-1 when really there's parity on the board. Historically, what happened was McClellan was already planning to move his base from his entrenched position and behind that and pull it down over all the way down to the very southwestern corner of the map, and then off the map, moving south to bases along the James River, where he would continue to threaten Richmond much less directly. The big victory point key to the game, if the Union can get Richmond, basically they win. That's pretty hard. There are some serious defensive positions. I'm not getting good focus here. Some serious defensive positions right around the Richmond area, some fortifications, etc., that are going to make that a difficult fight if it's going to happen. So yeah, right now the decision that McClellan's making is, if I can hold this line here and keep the positioning that I've got, then I can worry about those southern map areas and maybe extend my lines in that direction without having to do the full base change. If they have to do the base change, essentially they give up the entire northern area of the map, and it becomes worthless to anyone. And all the points end up towards the south. The problem there is the southern areas really aren't very defensible, and that's why historically McClellan essentially moved further down to more defensible locations. But that definitely puts him out of any chance of taking Richmond, and of getting really... The middle areas of the map are also of some value, so losing them even after the base change is kind of a painful thing. On the other hand, there are points gotten for exiting units from the map and for exiting the supply train. So it may be a good idea to do the base change anyway. Something that has to be decided at that point. Certainly right now, though, the effects of this current battle over here along the Beaver Dam Creek, you know, if the Confederates are badly damaged there, the Union can move southward across the Chickahominy and into a position to threaten Richmond from the north, as well as moving their line up against the entrenched positions here. That would probably be sort of the ultimate fantasy scenario for the Union, if they can surround Richmond without really having to to fight any major battles on the offensive side. And if they're in that position, then they can do kind of much lighter attacks towards gaining territory closer and closer to Richmond. That's really where I'm sitting in terms of the Union as thoughts. The Confederates, obviously, they want to smash the Union here. They heavily outnumber them, even if the reinforcements arrive. But attacking is always more expensive. So hopefully we'll see what happens, and I'll be able to update you guys in a while.